Pickle, it's Tuesday, and I know that it was cold last week, but today
It's legitimately getting hot.
it's getting hot. Yeah! It's Hot Take Tuesday.
It's hot
I feel
take.
like you gotta like come out of that like this.
Hot Take Tuesday, where we invite one member of the Texas football staff to issue their hottest take. And today we turn to our college football insider, Shehan Jeyarajah, who's got a great piece up on TexasFootball.com about small college football and what may be the future for small college football, one particular division. Here's Hot Take Tuesday with Shehan Jeyarajah here on Texas Football Today.
It's Hot Take Tuesday, where we have a different member of the Dave Campbell's Texas football staff come on and give us their hottest take each week. And we've got a hot take from our college football insider. We're joined by Shehan Jeyarajah. Hi, Shehan. I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I guess it's been a hot minute since we've been in the same place, right?
Yes, boy, that's not a time. There's another time for us to do that. So you've got a piece up on TexasFootball.com, and unsurprisingly, in my estimation, you tackled the college football world, but you went the small college route. The headline is "Why Division II football could be on the way out." Shehan, why do you hate Division II football?
Well, I have to say first of all that I love small college football. I think to me a lot of this has to do with what I feel like is a trend in sports in general. I think that there really is this coalescing of sort of the big time versus the small time, and I think we see it at the highest level of college football. I think we're seeing right now, there are only 3 to 5 programs right now that are kind of separating themselves from the pack, and I really got thinking about this as we sort of saw this realignment happen, as we saw Tarleton State move up to the Western Athletic Conference along with Dixie State. And then obviously, with Tarleton, we got to see them the last couple of weeks win a game against New Mexico State, an FBS opponent, and get a lot of attention for it. We got to see them play McNeese State, very close, obviously taking them to overtime. And here's my thought, right? I think that if you look at the schools in Division II, and I'm going to speak more specifically to Texas, I'm not saying that Division II is not going to exist or anything like that, but I think when you look at the state of Texas, I think that there's going to be this delineation between the schools that really want to prioritize football and want it to be big time and want to move up potentially to Division I, and those who maybe need to look at their situation and realize this is not what we're going to do. This is not what we want to do. And so the schools that, for example, that I think, I think Texas A&M Commerce, right? I think that if you look at what Tarleton's doing, the attention that they're getting right now, the amount of headspace that they're getting nationally, I think that we can acknowledge, right? I love Division II football. I think that the Lone Star Conference is one of the coolest things about the state. But I think that if you're a Division II school, you can see how much more attention Tarleton State has gotten for being in Division I, even just for these 2 games, than really all the accomplishments that I think that the Lone Star Conference has had over the last couple of years. And I think that if you look at these schools that have been very competitive, and obviously, schools like West Texas A&M and Angelo State who take themselves very seriously and want to be taken seriously, I think that we could see a lot of them looking to move up. And on the other end, I'm not exactly sure which one of these schools it would be, but I think that maybe you point to like a Texas A&M Kingsville that struggled a little bit to recruit over the last couple of years. Facilities have been a struggle for them, and finances have been a struggle for them. I wonder if they kind of just decided at a certain point, look, we might have the ability to be really, really good at Division III football instead of being sort of this also-ran in Division II. Now, I know that Kingsville is also a very proud program historically, but it kind of seems like they are not willing to put in the work at this given moment. Now, maybe that changes, but I kind of feel like, and I mentioned it in my piece, when it comes to scholarships too, right? You're giving out 36 scholarships, which cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for the university. Are you getting bang for your buck versus a school like, Mary Hardin Baylor, like Hardin Simmons, who maybe they don't make the same revenue total, but you're obviously trading that with hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarship money that you're also putting into the program. So I think that, again, football in general, I think, is moving in the direction of coalescing. And I wouldn't be surprised if in Texas, we kind of see this shift where it's more the scholarship programs versus those who just decide to go non-scholarship.
So then is it fair to say, and reading your piece, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but let me play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Is it fair to say that you look at Division II right now as maybe just being stuck in the middle, that it's not big enough, that it's driving enough revenue to make it worth it, but it's also too big, that it's costing enough money? It's costing so much money that it's just that it's just not sustainable for a long period of time for some of these programs, especially during the Lone Star Conference.
Yeah, I think that is right. And I especially look at, I think that could change, right? I think that maybe ESPN Plus gets in the mix. And if you get Division II games on ESPN Plus, maybe that changes the dynamics a little. But that's not a reality right now. We have this conversation nationally. And I think that one of the things that's also informed this for me is being plugged in nationally into sort of the national college football conversation. You hear some talk about the FCS spring season, right? You hear some talk about people, again, turning on the Tarleton game, turning on, the whatever else game, but you don't really hear that about National D2. You don't really hear that about National D3. And I think that a big part of that obviously is the regionalization of D2 and D3, especially versus, you have the sort of more recognizable names in FCS, but I also think that there's a prestige difference there. And like you said, if you're going to be funding all these scholarships, it's really hard to kind of, for lack of a better term, half-ass football, right? You kind of have to do it or you don't. You have to build the giant facilities. You have to build a big stadium. You have to pay for all the equipment. You either do it or you don't. And to me, I think that, being at 36 scholarships, right? And obviously at the Division II level, you're talking partial scholarships as well. So it's not just that 36 kids are getting scholarships, but I think that you end up in an interesting position where it's like, if you can't really build a roster of all scholarship players at the Division II level, right? Like you're kind of mixing and matching and kind of trying to convince kids to not go D3 and come up here and be D2. I wonder at a certain point if schools just decide, that this is maybe the right thing for us is to just say, we want kids to come here and we want to try to more grow our enrollment, because I think that that's obviously a priority in Division III is, it's not just obviously, wanting to be competitive on the football field. You also want kids to enroll in your school for the opportunity to be on the football team. And so I'm wondering if eventually for some of these schools that becomes more of a priority is, either we're going to do this, we're going to put all this money into it, we're going to try to be like a program that's maybe nationally relevant, but maybe the alternative is we're going to try to be really competitive, we're going to try to compete for championships, we're going to try to grow our enrollment in Division III.
So obviously, I think a lot of the conversation we've had is surrounding Tarleton right now. You've mentioned them, and obviously off to a great start. So far they were extremely competitive against a pretty good FCS team in McNeese, and then they go and they beat an FBS team in New Mexico State. Do you think that if Tarleton, obviously 1 year is 1 year and it's a spring season, but if they're immediately competitive in the WAC, if they're immediately, I'm not saying they're going to win the conference, but if they're out there and they're, turning winning seasons and things like that, and you start to see the buzz around Tarleton grow, do you think that could prompt other programs in the state of Texas to maybe explore that move, in the next couple of years?
Oh, no question about it. And one thing that I'd point to, right, our guy Corey obviously wrote a great piece on Tarleton kind of having a big weekend this past weekend, and a lot of Lone Star Conference fans got in there and posted the A&M Commerce Tarleton scoreboard from last year. I see that all the time whenever Tarleton articles are posted, right? And I think that if you are A&M Commerce, if you are Angelo State, if you are West Texas A&M, you're a program that has been consistently competitive with Tarleton for forever, basically, right? It's not like Tarleton has been functioning at this different level than everybody else in Division II. So I think that you go up to Division I, right? You see them compete with McNeese. You see them compete and beat New Mexico State, and we can, say that it was their B team, whatever. They dominated them, right? Like this was not a question. I think that you have to look at this and say, look, I'm not saying that that if any of these other schools moved up, that they'd first of all be immediately competitive or even as competitive as Tarleton. But I do think that, I think that this is going to convince a lot of athletic directors and a lot of boosters and a lot of fans to take stock of what they have, because, the gap between Division II and Division I is pretty big, but it is also manageable. If you're willing to put in those base resources, and one of the things that I will mention is that Tarleton, the coach Todd Whitten told me before the season, they've been able to get up pretty close to that 63 scholarship number. They're near 60 scholarships, right? Which is something that not every school can all of a sudden do. You can't just jump from 36 to 60 immediately, right? Not every school is built to do that. But if you can do that, if you can convince people to come, if you can convince people to be engaged, again, I think that Charlton's engagement with the city of Stephenville has been a huge part of this, right? And so if you are A&M Commerce, you got to get Commerce in the door. If you are West Texas A&M, you got to get Canyon in the door. But if you can get that kind of support from the local community and from obviously financially, I think that there's no reason to think that that any of these schools that I've mentioned is going to sit back and watch Tarleton steal their shine.
He's Shehan Jeyarajah. He's our college football insider. It doesn't matter what division they play in. He will cover them at TexasFootball.com. Shehan, I appreciate your hot take. I think I agree with it, but we'll let the fans decide on TexasFootball.com.
Yeah, let us know in the comments, and you can let me know on Twitter at Shehan Jeyarajah.